Hey everybody, welcome again to another video from Everything Worship. Before we get started today, I'd like to remind you again, please remember to share this video with people that you feel this will be helpful to. Also, leave us a comment, click the bell icon so that you don't miss any new videos that we put up. So today I wanted to look at a very interesting topic, and that is, how do you maintain a good attitude in a bad worship experience? I think it's important for us to understand that it's not everything that we are going to like about the churches that we go to, but I guess, how do you keep a good attitude when it comes to serving, when it comes to receiving from your local church? There's several things that affect our hearts in terms of we're trying to be true worshipers. We're trying to follow the Bible's commandment of worshiping God in spirit and in truth. And then when we come to our local church corporately, it's like things are not going right, or you notice things that they're not working. Maybe the music is not okay. Maybe the worship is not okay. And you have some thoughts about that. We all have some thoughts about what's not going right. So I guess today I wanted us to discuss, how do you keep a good attitude in the midst of all that going on? One of the things that you have to understand is, one, it's important for us to come together as a body of Christ, as believers from different walks of life, and that's the way God intended fellowship to be. The Bible encourages us not to neglect the power of corporate worship and fellowshipping with each other. We need each other. So let's not forget that it is very important for us to come together. But as we are coming together in a local church to worship corporately, to give of our time, we are people, so we notice things, and it's not always that things are great. It's not always that when you're offering your time that you'll be appreciated, or you feel maybe you're not appreciated enough. You feel maybe, hey, if I was a leader, I would have done better. And there's all these things that go into our minds. But I wanted us just to talk a little and get encouraged, because one of the things that God is big about is leadership. God puts people in leadership not because of their skills, but he puts people in leadership because of their heart and the calling upon their life. Yes, skills are important. Yes, you can have skills, but that's not on the top of the list for God when he puts leaders in place. It's more of a heart thing. And we have to understand that just as easily as that person in front of you was put as a leader, God can call you also to be a leader. So you always have to think that if I was on the other side, would I appreciate myself doing what I'm doing right now? And if the answer is no, then you change your approach. So not to say that we should not notice things that are going wrong, not to say that we should not talk about things that are going wrong. I want us to really understand and appreciate the steps that we can take to help us in the struggle, if you like, of trying to keep up with situations that feel like they're not working. The number one thing I feel is prayer. Pray. If you are in the congregation and you feel like the worship experience, for example, is just not working, you're singing the same music, it's just flat, the transitions are taking long, there's awkward silences on stage, pray to God for help. And that's the number one thing that you need to do, is to pray. Now I know, if you know, when you talk about these things, and these things are physical. Okay, the band, the singers and are singing off key or whatever. They literally, there's a practical aspect to that, that they need to pay attention to. But when you pray, this is what happens. When you pray, God will send help. He will send help to your church for your team that you're praying for. One of the biggest ways that God sends help is through people. I'm here talking about worship. Why do you think I'm talking about worship? It's because God tapped me on my shoulder and said, hey, everything worship, this is what I want you to do. Why? Because there's somebody out there who's praying for help. So prayer is very, very important. We shouldn't neglect prayer. Even in times when it feels like this is a practical thing, and if I pray, how are they going to sing in tune? God cares about the problem more than you. He wants us to live a full life, and He wants us to experience Him in a very, very powerful way. He wants us to have fellowship with Him without all these hindrances. So He cares. He cares that the worship goes well. He cares that when you give your money, that money is used properly and for what it's intended for. He cares that when you give your time for service, when you're serving on any team, that you will also grow, that you will help others. He cares that all that goes well. But the one thing that you need to always remember, that God cares more than you. So if you have that in mind, it will help you know what to do and what not to do. It's very difficult and it's tricky. And you can let me know in the comments some of the challenges that you have when it comes to keeping a good attitude. What else can you do? Well, approach the leaders. That's another thing that you can do. Approach the leaders to say, hey, this is what I'm noticing. You need to know the right people to approach. And this is not to say your approach shouldn't be to say, I know more than you, but your approach should come from a heart of humbleness. Humble yourself, as it were. And usually when things are not going right, believe me, the people that are behind, the people that are doing those things, the people that are actually involved in that section, they already know that things are not going right. And you might not even understand that they are also crying for help. So offer a solution, and not to bring down the section of the team that's not doing well. If you are serving, your first option shouldn't be, hey, I'm out of here. These guys don't know what they're doing. That shouldn't be your first option. Your first option always should be to help, because that is your church, that is your family. And if you're in a family and there's one area of your family that is not working, think of it like this. You're not going to go outside and publicize, air your dirty laundry in public to everybody else. You'd want to sit down in your family and say, hey, we need to look at this. How do we solve this? Or how do we help improve this section? Because you are a family. And that is very, very important for you to understand. I've been in situations where, I knew something was wrong and I handled it very wrongly and very immature. It doesn't go well. It doesn't go well. We are a family. And if you are in a family, your local church, always be looking to, how can I serve my family? Even when things are not going right, how can I serve? How can I be a blessing and not be a person that's bringing strife or a person that's going to make the problem worse? So whether you are just in the congregation and you're not yet serving, and you can see all these wrong things that you're seeing, start by praying. Start by praying and see what God will do. I have to also say that, the way you are feeling and your frustrations with either the serving or the way that the worship experience on a Sunday, all those frustrations that you are having are because you love your family, you love your church, and that's a good sign. That is a really, really good sign. As we know what it means to worship God and we want to do this, I really want to give my time. I really, really want to worship God in spirit and in truth. I really want to serve. I really want to, I want to minister to the sick. I want to minister to people who are, to the orphans, or any ministry that you have in your church. That's a really good place to be. But there are going to be situations and times when you feel like, things are not working right, and you know that things are not working right. So be encouraged that God cares about that situation more than you. So pray, ask Him to help, ask God to help, and see what God will do. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.